Hello with you, Nocturne Gallery. Imagine stepping back in time. It's England, March 1603. We're in Richmond Palace. Queen Elizabeth I, she's nearly 70, and her incredible 44-year reign. Well, it's coming to an end. What must that atmosphere have felt like, in those last days? What thoughts, what feelings might have been going through her mind as this whole era, her era, was closing?
Oh, the accounts paint a picture of just this incredibly heavy, oppressive atmosphere in the palace. Really quite somber. The queen herself, she'd fallen into what's described as a profound melancholy. Today, we'd almost certainly call it, a deep depression.
That sounds awful.
It really does. She refused to even go to bed. For hours, she'd just sit almost motionless on cushions laid out on the floor. And her famous sharp wit, that commanding presence, it was gone, replaced by silence. She's barely eating anything.
Just picturing it, it's heartbreaking. Such a powerful figure. What do you think caused such a deep withdrawal? Was it just old age? Or did something specific happen, a final blow?
Well, I think it was probably a mix of things. Age, exhaustion definitely played a part. But there was a very specific loss recently before this. Her closest friend, her lady-in-waiting, Katherine Howard, the Countess of Nottingham, she died.
Oh, wow.
And this wasn't just any courtier. Katherine Howard had served Elizabeth for over 40 years, basically her entire reign, right there beside her. Losing someone that close, who knew everything, who'd seen everything with you, that must have been a tremendous personal hit, a real tragedy.
40 years, yeah, that's a lifetime of shared experience. So the loneliness must have been just immense, especially then. We always hear she was alone at the top, but it sounds like by this point she was genuinely alone. Most of her old guard, the trusted advisors, the friends, even loves like Robert Dudley, William Cecil, Walsingham.
Yeah.
They were all gone, weren't they?
Yes. Almost all of them. Dudley, the great love, perhaps.
Right.
Cecil, her rock, her chief minister for decades. Francis Walsingham, the spy master, all gone years before. She had literally outlived nearly everyone who had been truly close to her, who had shaped her reign alongside her. So it wasn't just a physical decline, It was this deep, profound emotional solitude, that feeling of an era really, truly ending. It must have been so heavy, not just for the court, but inside her.
So as she sat there, on the floor, silent, you have to imagine her mind casting back 44 years. It's such a monumental reign. England was completely transformed. What do you think she'd look back on with real pride? The big achievement.
Oh, there was so much. I mean, the obvious one, the iconic one, is the defeat of the Spanish Armada in 1588.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that image. But it was more than just a military victory, wasn't it? It really cemented England as a major naval power.
A real statement on the world stage.
Exactly. It was a symbol of England's new confidence and strength in Europe. A defining moment, for sure.
And then there's the culture. We still talk about the Elizabethan era as this incredible high point.
Absolutely. A true golden age for English culture. You got Shakespeare, of course, the explosion of theater, London itself becoming this vibrant, bustling hub. But maybe one of her most critical achievements, and sometimes we overlook this, was managing to keep England largely out of the horrific religious wars that were just tearing apart the continent.
Right. France, the Netherlands, just devastated by religious conflict. How did she manage that?
She walked a very careful line, a moderate path, really. Her act of uniformity aimed for compromise within the Anglican Church. It wasn't about crushing Catholicism entirely, at least not initially. It was about finding a middle way, seeking stability. And mostly, she succeeded in avoiding that widespread bloodshed that plagued her neighbors. That stability was key.
So huge triumphs. But like any long reign, it couldn't have all been positive. What about the darker side? The struggles, the costs, maybe even regrets she might have had sitting there?
Oh, absolutely. Those successes came at a huge cost. That war with Spain, it didn't just stop after the Armada. It dragged on for years, a constant drain. And the war in Ireland, brutal, incredibly expensive, just eating up funds. So by the end of her reign, the royal treasury was basically empty. Taxes were going up. People were feeling it.
So the golden age wasn't golden for everyone then?
Not at all. There were serious social problems, widespread poverty, especially out in the countryside. Vagrancy was a big issue. And crop failures led to famine, real hardship. There were food riots in the 1590s, even a major riot in London that had to be put down quite forcefully. It gives you a more complex picture than just the glorious portraits,
And personally, thinking about her own decisions, looking back, any specific things that might have weighed on her?
It's impossible to know for sure what was in her heart, but the executions. There were many during her reign. That must have been a burden. And the most famous, the most difficult, surely, was signing the death warrant for Mary, Queen of Scots, her own cousin.
Yeah. Even if it seemed politically necessary.
It's exactly. Necessary for security, perhaps, but the human cost.
Right.
That must have stayed with her. And then there's the constant issue that defines so much of her reign, her marriage status, or lack of
The
it.
Virgin Queen.
Right. And that meant no direct heir. This was the massive underlying anxiety for decades, a constant threat to stability. She played that card so cleverly for so long, keeping everyone guessing about who might succeed her. But now, the guessing had to stop.
So as she's dying, this massive question mark still hangs over England. Her final decision is crucial.
Absolutely critical. The whole future stability of the kingdom rested on it. She'd kept everyone dangling for decades, using the succession as a political tool. But now, time was up. And her chief advisor, Robert Cecil.
William Cecil's son, right? The continuity.
That's the one. Robert Cecil had already been, very quietly, negotiating behind the scenes with the most logical candidate, James VI of Scotland.
James VI, son of Mary, Queen of Scots, the woman she executed. That's extraordinary.
Isn't it? Quite the twist. But James ticked the crucial boxes. He was Protestant, vitally important for England, and he had a strong claim through his lineage, tracing back to Henry VII, the first Tudor. He was the great-grandson.
So the Tudor line itself pointed towards him.
It did. And the story goes, as Elizabeth lay dying, she finally gave her assent, maybe a gesture, maybe a whispered word. She confirmed James as her successor.
Wow. So even in her very last moments, she made this final, incredibly significant political act.
She did. She ensured a peaceful transition, prevented a potential civil war over the crown. It was arguably her last great service to England. So when she finally passed away on March 24th, 1603, the proclamation went out smoothly. James VI of Scotland became James I of England. The Tudor dynasty ended quietly. The Stuart era began.
It's just such incredible drama. The end of this monumental reign, the end of a dynasty, the loneliness, the final huge decision. It's hardly surprising that artists would be drawn to this moment, is it? Trying to capture that weight. And one of the most famous images comes from a French painter, Paul Delaroche.
That's right, Paul Delaroche. He tackled this very scene, but much later, of course, almost 200 years later in 1828. He painted the death of Queen Elizabeth. And this painting was actually a really important early work for him, especially as he started exploring English history. It really helped launch his career.
So tell us about Delaroche. What kind of artist was he? How did he see history?
Well, in his day, Delaroche was massively popular, a real star of historical painting. His style is interesting. It's sort of a blend. On one hand, he was incredibly careful with details, costumes, settings, faces, very realistic, very lifelike, almost photographic in its precision for the time.
Okay, so accuracy was important to him.
In the details, yes. But on the other hand, he infused his paintings with this intense romantic feeling. It was all about the drama, the emotion, the psychological story. He wasn't just painting historical events, he was painting human tragedies, triumphs. He made history feel immediate, emotional, relatable to people in the 19th century.
Making it feel personal, not just like a history lesson.
Exactly. And you have to remember the context. Early 19th century Europe, after the French Revolution, the Napoleonic Wars, people were fascinated by the past, by powerful figures, by moments of crisis, the rise and fall of power. Delaroche tapped right into that. His paintings of monarchs facing death or downfall were huge hits.
Now, you said he was precise with details, but I seem to recall he also got some criticism for, let's say, bending the facts a bit for dramatic effect.
Yes, that's definitely true. He often got criticized for taking artistic license. You see it in other famous paintings of his, like his Cromwell looking at Charles I's coffin, or the incredibly famous execution of Lady Jane Grey. The details might not be historically accurate based on all evidence. Sometimes they draw on popular legends, or you just range things for maximum impact. For Delaroche, the powerful image, the emotional connection, that was often more important than pure documentary fact. Does that bother you when artists do that with history?
It's a really interesting question, isn't it? Where that line is. So how does that approach show up in his death of Queen Elizabeth? What choices did he make for drama?
Well, I think his main aim was definitely capturing the tragedy, the human drama of it all, not creating a perfect historical snapshot. For example, the most striking thing is he shows her on the floor, on cushions, not in a grand state bed.
Which we know she did, based on some accounts.
Exactly. It's a detail found in some sources, but Delaroche uses it brilliantly to heighten the drama. It immediately makes her seem more vulnerable, more fallen from power. It's a very powerful visual choice.
It really emphasizes that isolation, even with people around her.
Precisely. Look at the composition. She's surrounded by all these figures, courtiers, doctors, advisors, probably Cecil in there somewhere. But she's absolutely the focal point. Everything about her pose, her face, It screams suffering, the end, the fading of that incredible power she once held. He portrays her less as the untouchable Gloriana the Queen, and more as well as a dying human being. In this moment of ultimate weakness, ultimate loneliness.
And the contrast with the setting.
Right. He paints the rich fabrics, the opulent court setting around her with all that meticulous detail he was known for. And that just makes the contrast with her dying figure even starker. It makes the scene feel more real somehow, more emotionally charged. It's a classic romantic vision of the end of a great life.
How did people react to it back in 1828? Was it a success?
Oh, a massive success. Delaroche became incredibly famous, especially, funnily enough, in Britain. His paintings of English history were hugely popular there in the 1830s and 40s. They were engraved, turned into prints, and sold by the thousands. People loved them. They just hit that nerve, the fascination with history, the big emotions, the turning points. And the death of Queen Elizabeth was absolutely key in building that reputation for him.
It is pretty amazing, isn't it? A French artist finding such fame in England by painting English history so powerfully.
It really is. Maybe sometimes an outsider can see the drama more clearly or frame it in a way that resonates differently. And you can really see his style developing in this painting, that mix of academic skill with this deeper psychological insight and really thoughtful composition. It points towards his later masterpieces. But it's important to remember, when we look at that painting today, we're not seeing 1603 directly. We're seeing it through Delaroche's 19th century eyes, through his romantic sensibility.
An interpretation, not a photograph.
Exactly. He took the historical event and layered it with this drama, this emotion that spoke to his own time. He's telling a story about power and time and destiny, using Elizabeth's end as his subject.
So we end up with these two really distinct views, don't we? On one hand, there's a complex, messy reality of history. Elizabeth's actual final days, the end of this long, incredible reign full of triumphs and losses, the end of a dynasty.
And then, on the other hand, we have this powerful, vivid, incredibly emotional, artistic image created nearly 2 centuries later by Delaroche. It might not be, a perfect historical record down to the last detail, but it helps us feel the weight of that moment. It drives home that this wasn't just an old woman passing away. This was the curtain falling on an entire age, the Elizabethan Age.
Which leaves us with a really interesting thought, doesn't it? Something for you, our listeners, to consider. How much do these really powerful, memorable paintings, these artistic interpretations, shape how we actually see the past today? Do they help us connect with the people and events on a human level? Or do they maybe risk creating a kind of beautiful myth that overshadows the much more complicated truth?